Today, we're going to unpack the epic 3-decade story of modern globalization. I mean, it's a heck of a story. It's got everything. An explosive beginning right after the Cold War, a painful reckoning, and now a total reinvention of the world economy. So where do we even begin?
You know, when you hear this quote, it sounds like it could have been written yesterday, right? It's basically a description of an Amazon Prime paradise. But the crazy part is, the famous economist John Maynard Keynes was writing about the world way back in 1914. He was describing a previous golden age of global connection, an age that, well, ended abruptly and very, very violently. That's a powerful idea to keep in the back of your mind as we go through this.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's the 1990s. The Berlin Wall is rubble, and this incredible wave of optimism is just washing over the entire globe. This was the birth of modern globalization, a time of just explosive growth and this powerful belief that the whole world was becoming one giant, integrated marketplace.
To really get a feel for the sheer speed of this change, just look at this number. Back in the late 1980s, this was how much currency was traded every single day. $190 billion. Now that sounds like a huge number, for sure, but trust me, it was just the warm-up act.
Because by 1995, just a few years later, that daily number had absolutely skyrocketed to $1.2 trillion. Yeah, trillion with a T. Money was just flying across borders at a speed nobody had ever seen before. It really felt like there were no limits to this new, connected world.
So you have to ask, what was the big idea driving all this? Well, the intellectual engine behind it all was this deceptively simple theory from way back in the 19th century called comparative advantage. The core idea isn't that you have to be the absolute best at making something. It's simpler. It's that everyone wins if each country just focuses on what it's relatively good at. You play to your strengths.
Okay, so let's make this super clear. Check out this table. You've got West and East. Now, West is actually better at making both computers and bicycles. So you might think, well, West should just do everything, right? But look closer. West's real superpower is making computers. East, on the other hand, is relatively better at making bicycles. So if West goes all in on computers and East focuses on bikes, and then they trade, the total amount of everything goes up. The pie gets bigger for everyone. That was the promise. Trade wasn't a zero-sum game.
But okay, let's pump the brakes for a second. Here's a little reality check. Even back then, at the absolute peak of all this optimism, the idea of a perfectly flat world wasn't quite true. Turns out most investment was still being financed at home. Money wasn't flowing quite as freely as you'd think from the headlines. It was a little hint that maybe the foundations of this new world weren't as solid as they looked.
And those little cracks, well, they were about to turn into massive fault lines. This brings us to Act 2, the reckoning. That early, dizzying optimism was about to run headfirst into a series of brutal shocks, and the whole idea of globalization came under serious attack.
You can almost pinpoint the moment the mood started to shift. It was 2006, with the collapse of these huge global trade talks. It was a big deal because for the first time in decades, the political will to just keep pushing for more free trade, it just evaporated. The global consensus was breaking apart. And after that, it felt like the hits just kept on coming. The 2008 financial crisis was a massive body blow. It completely shattered people's faith in that interconnected financial system that had powered the whole boom. And by 2019, all these events gave rise to a new and kinda scary word: deglobalization. And deglobalization is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. For the first time in modern memory, all the things we used to measure globalization, trade, investment, capital flows, they were all going in reverse. Everything that had been going up, up, up was suddenly going down. The world was starting to pull apart. And of course, these economic problems didn't just stay on spreadsheets. They fueled a powerful political backlash. People who felt totally left behind by all these rapid changes started to get very, very loud. And this wasn't just happening in one or two countries. This anger was global.
And this is where that parallel from the very beginning becomes really chilling. Remember that vibrant, super-connected world from 1914 that Keynes was talking about? Well, all this talk of deglobalization brought that memory rushing right back. That world, it ended in war. The first great age of globalization didn't just fade away, it was destroyed. And all of a sudden, the idea that our own era of connection could go into a dangerous reverse, well, that started to seem terrifyingly real.
And listen, this backlash wasn't just a Western story, not by a long shot.
This quote from an unemployed worker in China just shows that the same fears were being felt all over the planet. This is a guy who helped power China's incredible rise, but then as jobs started moving on to even cheaper countries, he got left behind. That anxiety was a truly global thing.
So where does all that leave us? Well, it brings us to Act 3, to the new reality that we are living in right now. See, globalization didn't die. It just transformed. It became something slower, more cautious, and way more complicated. Welcome to the age of slowbalization.
So what on earth is slowbalization? Basically, it's the idea that the explosive growth period is over. Trade and investment, they aren't expanding faster than the global economy anymore. So the world's still connected, definitely, but the pace has slowed to a crawl. The high-speed train has become a local commuter.
And this chart, this picture tells the whole story. Just look at the contrast. You've got that steep, rapid climb during the boom years, and then after the financial crisis, it just flatlines. The engine didn't shut off completely, but it was throttled way, way back. Now, it's really tempting to blame this all on politics and trade wars, and that's part of it, for sure. But there were deeper things going on. The easy wins, like making shipping cheaper, were mostly gone. And big companies started realizing, hey, maybe having our supply chain stretched all the way across the planet has some hidden risks. On top of that, China started making more of its own stuff instead of just assembling parts from other places.
And if all that wasn't enough, another layer got added to this, and it's a really big one. The global economy started to fracture along geopolitical lines. We're moving away from that idea of one single system and towards a world of competing economic teams.
These numbers just show you how huge this shift has been. At the end of the Cold War, the world's non-democratic nations were a pretty small slice of the global economy. Today, their share of global GDP has more than doubled. Their share of the world's biggest companies has jumped from just 3% to 30%. This isn't a small adjustment, it's a fundamental rebalancing of global power.
And this visual just hammers the point home. The autocratic world now makes up over a third of the entire global economy. The West is no longer the only game in town, not even close. We are living in a bipolar economic world, and that's a reality that would have been totally unthinkable back in the 90s.
So this is where our story leaves us for now. I think what it shows is that globalization was never some unstoppable force of nature. It was always a man-made system, a fragile one that's constantly being reshaped. We started with that parallel to the first golden age, an interconnected world that ended in the catastrophe of World War I. And today, we find ourselves in another era where the global system is fracturing into rival camps. It leaves us with a really unsettling question. As our world divides again, can we avoid repeating the mistakes of the past? Will this time be any different?